The views and opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 20th day of January, 2021. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House One Communications and Lindo's. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Carla Zul. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you're watching online, share the link. If you're on Facebook, start a watch party. If you're on Twitter, retweet it. Just get the conversation out there to your network. And don't forget to like and engage with us. Another good one today as Eugene, Dean, and Denise Riviere stop by to discuss the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. The Daily Play is a say it, don't sing it, Carla. I said that clear?
Nope.
Okay, so we may have some issues with everyone's hearing in their ears this morning as Carla, she just breaks out into song. We don't know what to call this condition as of yet, but basically Daily Play, she'll be guessing the lyrics to a famous song. So it's always a joy watching Carla do this, if you get what I'm saying. But I'm not sure where to start. I woke up this morning and pretty much saw the list of pardons and sentence commutes that what the president, the outgoing president Donald Trump had made last night. Did you see him?
I saw Lil Wayne's, and then I saw another gentleman I wasn't familiar with, but I haven't seen the whole list.
Well, it's a list. I think it's about 70 something, right? And Lil Wayne obviously stood out to me, but a famous guest to Bermuda, and especially around the time when he was convicted, and he used to come down to Bermuda all the time, Kwame Kilpatrick. He was commuted. Now I remember he got a lot of time up there in Michigan.
Detroit. Isn't he the mayor?
Yeah.
He was in Detroit and wasn't he? I forgot about him.
Yeah, he was definitely the mayor of Detroit. So to me, his sentence was always unfair when you consider the kind of sentences that other people that look differently have received for similar acts. So not saying that happy to see him, get freedom or anything. If you're guilty of a crime, you're guilty. But to me, it was always an injustice what his sentence was. So here's one. And then look, maybe I'm just too old, right? But I don't necessarily know who Kodak Black is, but Kodak Black apparently. But you know what was interesting about these?
He got pardoned.
Yeah. His sentence commuted. Yeah. But it's a pastor lady. She does all this stuff. Paula White. She does all this like, I don't want to say weird praying, but have you seen her? Like videos of her? Paula White, famous pastor, but she was writing for a lot of these people to get pardons. Interestingly enough, I think even Kwame Kilpatrick. Yeah. So President Trump's going out with a.
He listens to Kodak Black.
Well, I think it's more. I think it's more or less the people that are riding with those folks. You know what I'm saying? I think it's the people that, who when you read the list of pardons, right? When you read like what's next, who was helping them, I think it's more or less those people are the in-betweens with Donald Trump. So it may be. What's that?
Did he pardon himself?
I did not see that in there. But I think as far as him pardoning himself, it would have been a dangerous thing to do because it would be admitting some sort of guilt and then, easy for him to be sued, if that makes sense. So interesting pardons coming from President Trump there. What are your thoughts, everyone? Like, for those who have seen the pardons and the commuted sentences, what are your thoughts on that? I just found it in my life. Tell me if I'm wrong, but in Bermuda, the only pardon I can think about in recent years was a postpartmus one for Reverend Monk. I believe that's the only one that stands out to me. I mean, yeah, they did that recently. The the PLP, the government, the new PLP government, when they won in 2017, yeah, 2017 or 28, whenever they won it before last October, I remember them going to the House of Assembly and passing that and going to the governor and getting him a pardon. So I do wonder if this is something Bermudians would be interested in. Hey, why don't we pardon more people that, well, maybe Bermudians are comfortable with all of the convictions and the sentences that are handed out. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it anyone who you would, if you could pick someone in Bermuda to be pardoned, can you think of anyone offhand?
Me think of someone to be pardoned in Bermuda. Well, I would have to think about people who have been convicted or under scrutiny. I don't honestly know off the top of my head. I don't. I honestly don't. That's a good question. You know what, Carla? I'm gonna give that some thought. I'm gonna think about that over the next day. But I wonder what the audience would say if you could pardon anyone in Bermuda. Who would you pardon? Elizabeth says, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump put a price on those pardons to get his last final presidential buck. Oh, well, look, when you're dealing with politics and at that level, everything's got a price, right? Dr. Seaman says reality TV pardons. Oh, well, Charles is just sticking it to you, Carla. You might want to do the daily play before fixing your mic. Well, I mean, they just don't want to hear you sing. They don't want to see you be great, Carla. Seriously, they don't want to see you be great.
So rude. Yeah, we're working on it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So look, I just want to. I found that interesting. That was what I woke up to, the presidential pardons. But I want to bring it to Bermuda because I was reading Media Maya presented something last night. Right? She presented. I guess the question was asked, did you get to see the press conference, Carla?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
My goodness.
I read the release, but I didn't see the actual conference.
Well,
But I did hear a bit of criticism. So I don't know if you're going to talk about it, but hey.
Criticism about what?
Someone said, I'm so tired of the minister saying, thank you for that question. It's a good one. And then bubbling through the answer like they don't know what the answer is. Someone had that prominently posted on their WhatsApp last night. So is that what you're going to talk about?
No. I came across Media Maya and she presented percentages of people who have basically, I guess, who are going to take the vaccine and not take the vaccine. And the numbers were very interesting. And I wonder if I can, let's see if I can share Media Maya's, I may not be able to share her post on live, but of the people who registered, so 7,729 people, according to Media Maya, have registered their interest to take the COVID-19 vaccine in Bermuda. Of the people who have registered, 63% white, 14% black, 9% other, 14% race not stated. Now, only 14% from this report of the 7,729 people are black. Very, very interesting. But before we go blaming black people or pushing black people in corners and saying this about black people or anything when it comes to this vaccine, let's just go back because I've got something up. And it's a little study. It's got some history to it. It's called the Tuskegee timeline, right? So when we talk about black people not trusting, I see in comments as of late, and I need to be very clear with this here. When a black person questions this, it's very different from a white person, Latino person, Asian person. It's very different. The black experience is extremely different to other races and cultures when it comes to medical and health. Historically, it's been very different. And so when I look back at this study, and the study initially involved 600 black men, 399 with syphilis, 201 who did not have the disease. The study was conducted without the benefit of patients' informed consent. Researchers told the men that they were being treated for bad blood, a local term used to describe several ailments, including syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. In truth, they did not receive the proper treatment needed to cure their illness. In exchange for taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, burial insurance. Although originally projected to last 6 months, the study went on for 40 years. Now, you're something wrong with your mic. But that said, it is totally understandable that any black person, black people don't deserve criticism for not having any interest in taking this vaccine. What they need is trust. They need, to feel like that people are actually looking out for them, but they don't need criticism. They don't need criticism. So nothing surprising about those numbers. I guess the only surprising thing, and I think Talent actually provided something, 900 versus 4,700, which I think is the percentages breakdown in numbers, not percentages, right? So thank you for that, roughly estimates wise. Excellence rules, interesting. Excellence rules. Well, Mr. or Mrs. Rule says, sadly, there's not a good history with vaccines and people of color. Indeed. Amanda Kelly says, there is no trust. It is worldwide. We truly have not all learned from our history, as our history is not ours that has been told. Robert Durham says the premier did say he is not surprised about fewer blacks due to what has happened in the past. And Monica Dunstan says, don't forget Henrietta Lex. Thank you for that, Monica. So again, right now, I thank you, Media Maya, for presenting information the way you do. And thank you for the government for presenting those numbers. Now, let's hope that, again, this is no time to criticize those who don't want to get the vaccine, but also those who don't want to get it. There's a way to do things. Don't jump down people's throats and call them names and this and that. Just make your stance clear as to why you don't want to do it for yourself, or you can always just keep it to yourself. That's hard to do, right?
So the vaccination.
Your mic, Carla, you may have to switch over. Your mic is coming through as if it has water in it. Try to fix that, and then we'll bring you back in. Just look at the number of black women dying from pregnancy versus others. Actually, Dijon, I retweeted something from CNN, and this was in the UK. This isn't history. The black experience everywhere today is different. Well, thank you, because what you're doing is clarifying my comments a bit, Dijon. I referred to it if you go back in history, but this is not even just this. This is still happening today, and that's a perfect example. The way black women have been dying from just childbirth compared to other races. So this is important to remember, and so I just want people to be a bit more sensitive when we're discussing this, and stop expecting people to hear the news and hear about something new that's going to save their life and trust in it like others will. Anything, Carla?
Am I the only person who, I've been vaccinated, and only now, I guess, because I'm an adult, where I'm so cognizant about the potential downfall or the fears, because I don't have any fears of being vaccinated, and all my children have been vaccinated. So now I'm thinking about it on a different level. And again, and I've always said it, with this vaccine, if I have to get it, I will get it. I'm just not in a rush to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But listening to the discussion, especially among, ironically, you brought up Black British. I'm in a Black British group, and they have some serious, powerful convictions about why they won't get vaccinated. And I'm like, but you're willing to just stay in a bubble, or not travel? And they're like, yep. And these are young people in their 20s and 30s who are just adamant that they won't do it. So
I think that may change over time. But I think right now I can completely understand the reservations. I can understand anyone's reservations. I think the great thing right now is not being forced. I know passport travel things have been touted about, but I think if you really dig into details of what's being discussed, it's more or less that you've had a negative test rather than had a vaccination at this point. But keep in mind, those who travel, many people who travel, you would know and understand that to go to various destinations, you actually have to, maybe get shots and so on. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. I just think, the overall point that I'm trying to make this morning is let's not criticize people for where they stand. And truth be told, I think someone hits it right here. Is that Chocolate Lovely Lines says, I'll call you Miss Lines, says, first time in a while that people want to tell everyone that they are doing, how they are doing, what they are doing medically. And I added that part, how they are doing, because you're legit telling people how you're doing medically. Like, when did we become so open with our medical state? And I think it's done in a place where people just, want to make their opinions heard and feel like, their opinions matter more than others. Shay Renee says, do those who have tested positive still need the vaccine? Well, that's a good question. And I wish I were a doctor or a medical professional to answer that, but that's definitely something we can ask our frequent guest, Dr. Karika Weldon. I believe she's been making the rounds, and we can definitely ask about that. But I did read something, and I don't remember the publication, so don't quote me on it, but I did read something recently that there's a possibility that you get the vaccine and you can still probably test positive. So nothing's accurate. Nothing's accurate. James Burt says there's a way to fact check respectfully. I don't know necessarily what you're referring to, James, and I say this humbly. I say this humbly because I know we do have many people who are not Black that tune into this show. I think sometimes, and this is said in the most respectful way, since you use respectfully, the Black experience is something others can't relate to. And so sometimes we must sit out of conversations the same way I, as a Black man, have to. It's hard for me, believe me, it's hard for me. But sometimes I even have to sit out of the conversations involving Black women. So that the fact checking respectfully, you can't tell a Black person what is fact checking right now, because facts can simply come down to perspective, not actuality and reality, but your perspective. So it depends on where you get your information from and how you break it down. But I don't think history, and to use Dijon, recent history, would lie as relates to the Black experience. Hope that makes sense. Carla, anything before we jump to the news?
No, but I just think people need to respect, like you said, respect the differences. It drives me crazy. I don't even want to talk about it anymore with people because everyone thinks they're right. And I just think that's just so offensive.
Indeed. All right, we're going to take a quick news break, then we'll be back. We've had some great guests today. Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. We've got some things to discuss with them, so stick with us. Carla, please, nothing crazy in the news break. I'm still not over the jabs for joints. Like,
I was giggling about that this morning,
Folks, in DC, you get the vaccine, they're giving you weed. All right, let's go. I'm saying, I don't know. You think Bermuda would do something like that?
Not out loud.
Loud. That's a type of weed, ain't it? Loud. I see what you did there. All right, let's get to the news break. We'll be back with our guests for today.
Health Minister Kim Wilson has revealed a total of 1,665 Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines were administered to residents between January 11th and January 16th. 738 of these vaccines were administered by the Bermuda Hospitals Board during their first vaccination clinic held at the King Edward VII Memorial Hospital. The individuals vaccinated were part of Phase 1A priority group as outlined in the ministry's vaccine allocation strategy and included both frontline healthcare workers and residents in the hospital's long-term care facility. Of the remaining 927 vaccines, 40 were administered to the elderly, extremely clinically vulnerable, and clinically vulnerable at nursing care facilities, and 887 were given to the elderly and frontline healthcare and essential service workers at the vaccination center at the Police Recreation Club. More particularly, of the vaccines administered so far, breakdown is as follows. 58% female and 42% male, and of this, 32% were essential service workers, 27% healthcare workers, 22% were not categorized by occupation, so assuming they're elderly, and 19% were other, as in retired, unemployed, or caregivers. Advocacy group Social Justice Bermuda is calling on the One Bermuda Alliance to sack Senator Marcus Jones. Via a press statement, the group said, "Today we are publicly calling for the OBA Senator Marcus Jones to be removed from the Senate as on the back of his abhorrent post made January 17th, 2021 via Facebook, he too has proven himself unfit to represent Bermuda in the upper house." Marcus Jones signed his paean to Trump explicitly in his capacity as Senator Marcus J. Jones. The group went on to say, he cannot hide behind the guise of a personal opinion when he sought to bolster his craven devotion to the fascist Trump with the authority of his Senate position, end quote. In response to Burn News' request for a comment, a statement from Senator Jones was as follows. A recent post on my personal Facebook page does not reflect the sentiments or is supported by the One Bermuda Alliance. My intent was not to offend, and what I thought was a private note to an individual prayer ministry, I inadvertently posted to my homepage. This post has now been removed from my Facebook page. And that was Senator Marcus Jones. January 20th is one of my favorite days. It's Cheese Lovers Day. Cheese Lovers Day is a celebration of the many different types of cheese in the world, but it's not exclusive to cheese connoisseurs with exotic tastes. Instead, it's a day to celebrate your favorite cheeses while also learning about new ones. There are plenty of opportunities to taste new cheese, learn how to make your own, or even discover new recipes that make ample use of cheese. Anyone's welcome to join in on Cheese Lovers Day, no matter what type of cheese you enjoy or how you like it. Turning to weather, the high temperature in Bermuda is expected to reach 67. Dallas, Texas will see a high of 49, and it's expected to be 55 in Porto, Portugal. Don't forget to tune into the 4100radio.com tonight for nighttime jams featuring some of your favorite romantic classics. That's your Daily Hour News Break.
All right, and happy Cheese Day to the cheeseheads out there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Denise, Riviere, and Eugene. We're talking the Bermuda Clean Air Act today.
Good day, Medical House Store speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare.
Medical House is a great resource for Lefroy. The service is excellent.
Medical House is best known for its uniforms and footwear. It has hundreds of styles of scrubs and nurses' uniforms for health professionals. Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products. These same professional quality products are available to you for home health care.
The biggest reason to come see us is that we specialize in these areas and the education and knowledge that we provide.
Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door. Call or visit Medical House today.
Perrier water has been renowned worldwide for over a century and a half. Collected from a pristine ancient mineral water spring in the south of France, originally bottled in a distinctive green pear-shaped bottle, and distributed in Bermuda by John Barris Unlimited, our foremost beverage distributor, refreshing Perrier is the champagne of mineral waters. Try Perrier water in bold, natural fruit flavors with no added sugar and 0 calories. This month, we're featuring peach, strawberry, watermelon, orange, pink grapefruit, lime, cucumber, and regular Perrier water in cans. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
Welcome back to the big show, brought to you by Medical House One Communications, Lindos, and our friends over at Channel 82, where you can watch this and many other locally produced shows. If you have One Communications cable, she's Carla Zool. I'm Jamel Hartman, and we love being here with you every morning, despite Carla sounding like a robot earlier. Yeah, mic troubles happen. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest. We have Eugene Dean here and Denise Riviere here. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Yes, greetings.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So let's get right to the conversation. Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. Speak to us about who makes up this group and what it's about.
Okay, sure. So the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition is an activist group, and it consists of residents and business people who are around the Belco plant. And so how we formed is actually pretty interesting because the issues of Belco have been around for decades, but I think the group ended up coming about because of a straw that broke the camel's back.
And obviously, I want to know what that straw is.
I was waiting for the question.
Well, in December, you put out a press release, right? In December, with requests to Belco. What are some of those requests, and what has there been a response to date? And was the straw that broke the camel's back in that letter?
Okay, so I think to understand the bigger picture, you sort of have to understand why and how we finally came together as a group, as an organized group. So as I mentioned, pollution problems have come from Belco for decades, but as everybody does, they added an additional stack last year, and that stack is what broke the camel's back. And unfortunately, at the time that the group decided to form officially, Belco was having problems with some of the engines associated with their new development. And so that was creating a heightened level of pollution. And so if anybody's familiar with the Belco area, you have residents around there. You have, I think we've determined there's like 7 schools, there's nursery schools, there's community centers, there's sport clubs, there's businesses. So the surrounding community of the Belco area is pretty diverse. And so as individuals over the years, people would go and call Belco with issues about, their roof needs to be clean or tank needs to be clean. But as we got together and started hearing each other's concerns, we realized that we would have powers of numbers. So there were individuals who were calling, there were small groups that had formed. So we basically pulled everybody together and started to have conversations and share our stories about the impact of the pollution from Belco. And as we started to hear the intensity of the impact of Belco, not just from the new tower, but also just over the years, it became clear that we needed to collaborate and come together to address this. I mean, some of the stories were emotional. So for people in the area, soot became a big problem. There were literally chunks, in some cases, of soot particles that were dropping on people's cars. Painted houses were starting to show marks, people's roofs. So the soot was really impacting a lot of people in different ways. And of course, when you talk about an impact on a roof, that goes into your tank water. So you started hearing stories where people were saying they weren't comfortable drinking their water. So they were going out and buying water. They weren't comfortable bathing in it. There was one family that shared with us that they literally had rashes because of the oil that was in the water. The lady that talked about it wiped her sink and realized that there was actually oil in the water. So not only are we drinking that, we're cooking with it and bathing with it. So that was a big story, common story when we met. Then you heard people talk about the cracks. My parents live right across from Belco. And I remember us times where we used to sit at dinner growing up, my sister and I growing up there, and you could literally hear my mom's china shaking in the cabinet next door. So we heard stories from people repairing cracks in their walls and their roofs. There is a music school in the Earl Barkley, and they're having to retune their pianos multiple times throughout the year because of the vibrations. The fumes, everybody's seen on social media, the big fumes look like acid clouds that are forming over the towers sometimes. That fume smell is so strong that stories in that meeting was how people can't come outside of their house and chill outside on their porch because of the smell. The music school was giving testimony where kids were walking up to the top of the steps at the Earl Barkley, winded and wounded from having to breathe. So the stories got very emotional, and as you can imagine, people got very angry. The smell comes through the house. So it's not even like you can open up your windows sometimes and have fresh air. People were talking about the increase in their electricity bill because not being able to open up their windows. So the stories became so intense that it was, we cannot sit and just allow this to continue. Health. One lady shared a story with us where she's convinced that her family suffered from respiratory issues as a result of Belco. I believe it was a close family member of hers who passed, and when they did the autopsy, they asked the question, so does somebody in your house smoke? She was like, no, nobody smokes. And he said her lungs looked like they were smokers' lungs. So there's just a lot of straws that broke the camel's back, but I think the motivator was the impact of that extra tower, which was experiencing problems at the time. My parents' house is right across, as I mentioned, therefore the devaluation of the property is huge. Like if we tried to sell it tomorrow, I'm not quite sure whether or not we would be successful because right in front of the house are the new formation that they have that they've put. So those are the type of stories that drove us to say, you know what, we need to address this, and there's power in numbers.
So, like, all right. So those are the main issues, and it's quite a lot. It's not minor. Some major issues in there. When you all presented, Belco with your request, at the time of that release, they had not responded. Have they responded to date?
They have not responded to date. They did at the time that the date we originally set was December 18th, and they did ask for more time. There was some transition stuff that they were going through as far as a new sale and all of that. However, we're to the point now where we're expecting that response. So if anybody didn't see the details of that, as you heard all of the issues, and we call them nuisances, all of the nuisances that I mentioned, we are looking for filtration systems so that people may never feel comfortable again drinking the water, but at least you'll feel a little bit more comfortable cooking with it or bathing in it. The expenses related to all of the pollution. There was a senior citizen in one of the meetings that we asked her to bring us her bill on how much she spends on water, drinking water. And everybody knows that senior citizens don't have a lot of disposable income. So there are the cost of water, the cost of painting roofs and cleaning tanks, which Belco does do those services for certain residents, but not for all the residents that are impacted. There at my parents, all of the concrete is stained. We've had some people who freshly or painted houses, and houses actually have marks on it. So there's structural damage. There's a lot of cost associated with that type of pollution. We want them to, pay attention to how they maintain the stacks. We do realize that they try to address the issue of that stack that was spewing that amount of soot. But even though they say that it's been addressed, we still do get soot. So making sure that they're actually maintaining it and doing whatever feasibility studies that they need to do in order to make sure that the pollution is minimal. We realize that, whether the Belco plant was in front of our houses or in another area, Bermuda is densely populated. You can't put a plant way out somewhere so it doesn't impact people. So there's a certain level of responsibility, social responsibility, that we expect Belco to take on as it relates to the impact on the community. We have encouraged them to do an impact study based on property health and the environment, general environment, so that we could even understand what exactly is the impact. What zone do you have? We had one gentleman in a meeting that said, so they agreed to wash my car, but they wouldn't agree to clean my roof. So there's a lot of work like that they need to, that we believe that they need to invest in order to fix things. Outside of them, what's the regulations? What's the legislation that's preventing us from addressing things? According to the Department of Environment and Belco, they're passing all the tests as far as quality of drink water.
I just want to jump in. It's only an hour show, and I know we have a lot more to get through. Go ahead.
Because that was actually one of my questions, which you've answered, what would be a viable solution. But I was in doing the research. Dennis Pimentel also said that while the suit is aesthetically unpleasing, that it is not a health risk. But I did also see what you've said about people having concerns about, for example, drinking their water. So this creates a quagmire. What more can be done if Belco is saying that the suit creates no environmental hazard?
So Eugene's going to go through our journey that we've had, because that might help you know who we've talked to talk to this. But basically, our position is, we don't care what tests you've passed. We don't care what awards you've gotten. When your roof looks the way it does, or when people are afraid of drinking, it doesn't matter. It needs to be addressed. So I think Eugene will help to say who we went to speak to, which will answer some of that question as well.
Right. Yeah, give thanks, Denise. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. We've met with a lot of people. And I came right on board in my capacity as chairman of the board at Green Rock to really endorse the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition, because it was just positive to see people in the community all coming together. And when we went to the first Belco meeting, it was established that a formation of this type has been unprecedented. There's always been small groups going forward, but to have a group that's comprehensively representing the entire community and everyone that's impacted has never happened before. So in that regard, we definitely do have the attention. So the whole journey started off with a town hall that Belco had already organized, interesting enough, after the first press statement went out from the BCAC. And that was basically, Belco got an opportunity to hear firsthand what the community concerns were. And actually, I spoke with the CEO of Belco and said, listen, my advice to you is that during this meeting, I just suggest that you just listen, because the more you talk to people, the more irritated people's going to get. So just listen. And for the most part, they did that. So that was positive. The next thing that we did, we went to see the Department of Environment and Natural Resources just to understand the regulations, and what we found was a lot of staff there are pretty frustrated because they understand the concerns that are in the community. And it's almost like they're trying to figure out how to get Belco to be not in compliance, because it's obvious that there's issues, but somehow or the other, all the tests come up in a way where Belco is in compliance. So it does create a quagmire. So we said, okay, we went back to Belco. We ended up with 3 meetings with Belco. First one, they were explaining what happened on their plant and what they were doing to address it. The next meeting, we were discussing renewables. One of the things that we brought to the table from Green Rock is look, we can work on addressing these issues, but if we're actually going to find a solution, then we need to move away from fossil fuels, because fossil fuel electricity generation is always going to create some level of pollution, So what's the deal with renewables, and how can we get to that as quickly as possible? So, and then we also started to talk to I guess, Belco about our recommendations and the things that we would like to see from them. What was interesting in that meeting is that it appeared to be kind of like a difference of view between Belco and the regulatory authority as it relates to the rollout of renewables. So we had another meeting with Belco just to focus on, okay, what is the role of the RA, you know, and how do you see, I guess, the RA as an impeding factor on your initiatives as it relates to renewables? So we went into that, and then we also got more into the regulation side of it. And this was very interesting because what it came up in this meeting was that, okay, so we understand these things that you're requesting from Belco, and it was said to us in that meeting, we don't necessarily have a concern with what you're recommending or what you're asking for us to do. However, it's important for you to know that we're regulated by the RA, and the RA would need to approve the expenditures that we make to this. So we said, well, hold on, what do you mean? The RA has got to approve. Why would the RA have to approve you doing things to address concerns within the community? So anyway, we went and met with the RA. So we meet with the RA, and the RA says, okay, well, we regulate Belco financially, but we don't like control how they spend the money. You know, what we do is we determine what costs Belco has that can be recovered through their rates or through rate increases. So what we know historically has happened is that Belco makes developments, and this has been a concern amongst a number of things. Belco has developments, and then they apply for rate increases because they say that all these costs go into the cost of generating electricity. So what the concerns being is that ratepayers are actually paying for Belco's development. Meanwhile, Belco is paying dividends to shareholders. So it's like, well, listen, in no way are we going to have the costs associated with Belco addressing community concerns passed on to ratepayers. It's just not going to happen. We're just not accepting that. So whatever regulations it is around that needs to be changed. So the RA says, well, we don't control that. If Belco wants to spend money on something, they could just go and do it. It's their business. You know what I mean? We just determine what they're able to recover through rates. So we said, again, we're making it clear. Anything that comes across as it relates to what we recommended for Belco to do, we don't even want to hear about any of it being included in a rate increase. So that was very interesting. The other thing was that it was almost being suggested by the Department of Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources that the RA had to regulate, you know, I guess, Belco environmentally. And then they made it clear, like, no, we only regulate them financially. So we started to find like all these kind of like inconsistencies in terms of messages. So our next thing now, we need everybody around the table. We need Belco, we need Department of Environment and Natural Resources, we need the RA, we need the Minister of Home Affairs, who covers like the Energy Department. We need the Department of Health because of all these health concerns within the community. We need Algonquin, we need representatives from Bermuda Clean Air Coalition, and we need the area MPs, which are currently our Premier, David Brett, and Minister Haywood around the table. So that's the next thing that we're looking to do. You know, actually, we have one more meeting before that. We're supposed to be meeting with Algonquin because Algonquin apparently has very, I guess, progressive plans as it relates to renewables. And if they do, that's something that we really want to support. So we're supposed to be meeting with them and the newly appointed president, Wayne Keynes. That's the next meeting. And then we're looking to get everyone around the table. So, and to answer your question, Carla, it is a bit challenging. We've yet to find out which organization is actually prepared to represent the interests of the community that's being affected. Everybody's declaring their interest, but we haven't heard anybody saying, okay, what are the ones who actually are here to back and support you? So at the moment, the community is left on their own.
So you're clearly very passionate about this. And I was on your Facebook page, the BCAC's Facebook page a couple of days ago, and there was a gentleman specifically who seemed very concerned about, he used some pots that had some gray in them. And he was like, it seems like nothing's happening. It's clearly, you guys are doing all that you can do, but the problems that are existing within residents and businesses are still going on and causing heightened anxiety. So have you guys slowed down in the residents' eyes, or how can you keep people somewhere at peace when all of this is going on? So what's next?
So Eugene and I joke about this because when we first started, we agreed that our initial approach was going to be to collaborate with the stakeholders to come up with a resolution. But Eugene and I joke all the time because we're like, what are two calm ones? We're holding back all the people who are ready to, you know, take gumbe drums and be outside the door of Belco. So we are trying to deal with it the politically correct way, the organized way, and the collaborative way, which has gone well. Now we just need to get everybody around the table to have the conversation because we're not giving up. There's like 40, almost 50 probably in the group. And we know there are others out there that are impacted that we don't even know about. So one of the reasons why we were excited about coming on you all show is we're actually encouraging people to go on our Facebook page and share your story, because we truly still need to understand the impact of the pollution beyond our immediate group that's around Belco. So we're not giving up. We realize that this didn't become a problem overnight, so we're not going to be able to solve it overnight, but we're here for the long haul until we get the solutions that we expect. And you're right, we could talk about this for 3 hours, trust and believe, but we're not going anywhere. We'll probably be back on your show again, giving an update. We want to be very transparent on what we are trying to do, Carla. And we just need more and more people to connect and to share how they are impacted so that we can continue our power and numbers approach.
We have quite a bit from the audience I want to touch on. Kathy Brumby asked, what about air quality in office buildings? Businesses do not give results to health and safety committees.
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting, I'm at the hospital now, but before I was in a building in Hamilton. And as I was sharing with some of my coworkers, the fact that we were starting to drum this up to deal with the Belco pollution, she made a comment. She said, you know what, I've been out to my car and I've seen stuff on my car, but never thought about, you know, where it came from. Taunton is not far from Belco. And like I said, if anybody sees the smoke pictures that come up on Facebook, on social media, that cloud actually carries pretty far. So it's very possible that air quality in buildings is impacted. I just don't think that impact study has been done, which needs to be done.
We have Sean Smith asks, do they have stats on how many people who have fully recovered from COVID-19 without taking the vaccine could have COVID-19 again?
So it's from the last.
Okay, I was like, I didn't think you guys mentioned COVID-19. Tamara Richardson says, has the air water quality tested by outside sources ever? Has it ever been tested? And an entity outside of Belco or government who can objectively and independently assess it?
Eugene, you want to talk about the environment meeting we had?
Yeah, so apparently, that's the role of the Department of Energy and Natural Resources, and they're meant to be kind of like the independent element that's doing all the testing and things of that nature. There is a group of locals that are looking to do some independent studies. There's a gentleman named Tariq Smith who is heavily involved in water. He actually lives in Barcelona, Spain, and he comes and does some educational courses there. And he's heading up a program, and they're looking to incorporate the area around Belco in this kind of comprehensive study that they're doing. So potentially something like that's on the cards, but that's something that we've realized is lacking. And obviously there's a lot of interest from the community in having more studies done, because everything that's being currently done by the government is saying that Belco is still in compliance, which is a concern when you have so many negative impacts.
I want to, okay, so when speaking about who is involved in the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition, it stood out to me that it was a lot of area residents. Mm-hmm. And my hope from this conversation and the work that you're doing and many other conversations is that people will start to adopt what a lot of people who supported the civil rights movement, for instance, who were not Black adopted. just because it may not impact or affect you right now doesn't mean that it can't. So jump on and support causes long before they tend to hit home is what I'm saying. Now, I want to be clear. Yes, we're hearing one side of the story today. We don't know where Belco stands. I'll be clear with that. But we can't, the information is available. As Denise Riviere just mentioned, you can go to their Facebook page. And then if Belco doesn't present a counter argument, you can come to your own conclusion or find a way to get it. But I just want people to understand more or less, these are the kind of situations you can't just sit back and listen to or watch happen. These are the kind of situations, because if not, and this may be a real stretch, but it's like gun violence. Gun violence was happening in our neighborhood, Carla, long before it started spreading through Bermuda. But now you see comments 10 years later, oh, it's hitting too close to home. Bermuda's 21 square miles big. Everything's close to him. So we should be looking at it in the same manner. You
This is not a neighborhood problem. It's a Bermuda problem. And when, like I mentioned before, we have people from Bermuda who have children at Soltis, at West Pembroke, at Northlands, at Berkeley. People go to Dandytown, play football. So the reach is far when you think about just Hamilton. Like when you think about who it impacts, regardless of where you stay, this is a Bermuda problem. And that's why we want to encourage people to share their story with us so we can actually sort of figure out how far out does this impact go? Because we believe it's beyond the zone that Belco considers to be the impacted zone. So in addition to our Facebook page, our email address is BDA Clean Air Coalition @gmail.com. That's BDA Clean Air Coalition @gmail.com. So whether you use email or whether you use Facebook, just start to share stories so that we can get an idea of the wider impact of the Belco pollution problem.
Alrighty. Any final words, Eugene?
Yeah, I just want to say that, thus far, we haven't really had any challenges engaging with Belco. They've been pretty upfront, transparent. They brought a lot of technical people around the table to explain things. We've been working directly with the CEO on a lot of these matters. He seems very favorable of addressing things within the community. So I'll close by saying this. A lot of people express concerns about the sale of Belco to an overseas entity, Algonquin. I see this as an excellent opportunity for Algonquin. Now, they've gone ahead and created a president role, and I guess they have appointed former Minister Cairns as the president. It's clear that that's a step that they made to show that, they're looking to be a community-minded organization. Well, this is a huge opportunity for them to take a positive step towards, I guess, winning favor with Bermudians who would clearly be looking at them skeptically at the moment, being not sure of whether this organization is going to come in and do things that benefit the community or come in and take advantage of the community for their own financial gain. So this is a real opportunity for them to lay down a marker and say, yes, we do value the community. We want to be seen as an organization that works with the community. And as a result, these are the things that we're willing to do to address the concerns that are there. Short of that, in my view, it could be far more expensive for them, right, to ignore this than to address it.
Indeed. Denise Riviere, thank you so much for coming from the Bermuda Clean Air Coalition. Obviously, Eugene Dean, thanks for coming again. And looks like we'll be having these conversations a bit more. So get the information. Don't forget, folks, you can go to their Facebook page, Bermuda Clean Air Coalition, and just share that email one more time, Denise.
BDA Clean Air Coalition @gmail.com.
BDA Clean Air Coalition.
Clean Air Coalition @gmail.com.
All right. Thank you both. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, too.
No problem.
Peace and love.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with the Daily Play and send you off with some motivation as we recap today's episode of the Daily Hour.
Bermuda, do you know the difference between internet and Wi-Fi? Don't worry. Neither did I. Let me break it down to you. Internet is delivered to your modem which then has to push the Wi-Fi signal into the rest of your home. Do you find that the further you're away from your modem, the weaker your Wi-Fi signal gets? That's because Bermuda's homes are built hurricane tough. It's really difficult for that Wi-Fi signal to reach every room. But you're in luck. Our One Home Wi-Fi solution guarantees Wi-Fi coverage in and around your home with the help of our Eero devices. Plug in the Eero around your home and it will create a mesh Wi-Fi network in every room. Check us out at One today to sign up and make sure you can stream, work, and play from every corner of your home.
All right, welcome back to the Big Show. Carla Zul over there. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour. Thanks again to Medical House One Communications, Linda's, and everyone who continues to support this show, including every last one of you. Give us some love. You liked the show, like the page, love the link. Let us know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on today's episode, Carla?
Powerful. I mean, it's just, I don't even know. Maybe I'm a pessimist. Can there be a solution? Because like we said, with the stack, I was just thinking about where we live, Marsh Valley, where we're from, and how we could see the smoke coming over. And we're not an area resident. So I think people do need to think a bit broader and think that to know that it affects more than just those immediate residents and businesses. So let's do our part.
I believe I saw a comment. Here it is. I wonder if the cancer and respiratory illnesses on island are studied by the epidemiologists to determine if there's environmental concentration / link. It's been too long now that we've heard horror stories in and around the Pembroke area, Marsh Valley, right across to Belco. And yeah, I would love to know this as well. I mean,
as they were concluding, I was actually thinking to myself, like, is this why so many people are dying from cancer in Bermuda?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good question, and questions need to be asked. Like I said, if you like today's episode, make sure you like the link wherever you're listening. Give us a comment, engage with us, let us know. Tomorrow we have Nick Thompson from Scooter Mart stopping by. Scooter Mart is a unique business, if I'm not mistaken, the first used bike dealership in Bermuda, and then they have some hilarious commercials. So we'll be talking a lot to him about the business model that they brought to Bermuda. On Friday, we have DJ King Gyrus, DJ iBreeze in the building. So that should be a good one. To me, he has been one of the DJs, if not the DJ, that really entertained, especially at the beginning of the shutdowns and COVID-19 lockdowns. So looking forward to a good conversation with him, how he's evolved over the years from records to now everything being so digital. Daily playtime, Carla. I know you're thinking, let's get away from it. Here we go. Help Carla out, folks. Here's the daily play. It's a song. She's got to guess what song these lyrics go to. Quote, if you know your history, then you would know where you're coming from. End quote.
My daddy would be insulted if I do not know this answer. This is the late, the great Bob Marley.
Okay. And the song?
Oh my God, you would know where you're coming from. Oh my God, who the hell do you think I am? I am a Buffalo Soldier.
A round of applause, everybody.
I used to jam in my Dennis Green Dotson to that 58 track.
I was gonna say, if you got today's wrong, there would have been some questions. I mean, I gave you everything but the title of the song. Bob Marley, Buffalo Soldier. It is
1 for 3.
Nikki Michelle says, well, learned a lot today. We did too. Amanda Kelly, I never even thought to the suit in cars. I used to live Government Gate, and I think some things were considered part of the community. Great show, passionate and informative. Yeah, that's our area. Agree. No, Robert. No, Michael Dunkley's next Monday. Next Monday. So
it's ready.
Monday for Michael. It's ready. Yeah. Take your gloves off. Any inspiration for us today, Carla?
Yes, and one quick thing. Did you notice the statement in the news? Someone owes me some commission. That's all I'm saying. The daily inspiration. Don't let the fear of losing be greater than the excitement of winning. Robert Kiyosaki.
That's a good one. What statement in the news? What are you talking about?
What Marcus Jones said. That was my recommendation yesterday, and he said it today.
What did he say?
You were listening? Basically saying that that was not the view of the OBA, and then he also went on to say that he put it on his it was a mistake to go on his personal page.
I don't have a yawning.
I didn't give that part, but I said just say it's not affiliated with the OBA.
That's not what I mean. I'm more concerned about the OBA's statement. He said what he said. He could stand on his words. The OBA
says no comment, no post. What's your problem?
No, but they made a comment. But it was the stupid basically, Carla's looking for a job. OBA, so if you need her PR, she needs some help. Like I said, Scooter Mart tomorrow, King Jairus on Friday. Thanks again to our partners, One Communications, Medical House Lenders, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you. As always, we appreciate all of you. We love all of you, and we thank all of you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. She's Carla Zool. I'm Jamel Hartman. My friends, make it your best day yet.